Hi, everyone. Welcome to Make Your Day Richer. I, of course, am your host, Kelly Ripa. Today, I'm joined by a guest who is bravely dissecting deeply ingrained myths to challenge racial inequality in America. Steve Brigham is the author of It's Never Been a Level Playing Field, a powerful book that explores the inequalities in housing, education, and justice systems. With his background in facilitating complex public discussions, Steve is here to help us understand the true roots of racial inequality and inspire us to work toward a more equitable future. So if that sounds like a good show to you, click that like button, click that share button right now, and let's start the show.
Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Well, Steve, it's a pleasure having you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Well, I'm excited to talk about your book, It's Never Been a Level Playing Field.
Correct.
Tell everybody about the book.
So the book is it was a 4-year effort. First time I've ever written a book. I'm 63 years old. I never imagined writing a book, and the book I wrote is on a very complicated, complex, contentious topic. But it was really looking at, and it's an accumulation of kind of my realizations over the last 20, 30 years as a white person on how America has never really created a level playing field for African Americans, even after the civil rights era of the 1950s and 1960s. Nothing fundamentally really changed, especially when you look at outcomes and when you look at leadership across all sectors, still very white dominant.
How come I don't know if you know these answers or not, but I'm going to throw out my questions about this entire thing. We always talk about like how far we've come and how we've progressed, but it oftentimes feels like you just said like we haven't really. So why do we talk like we have?
Well, it's not that no progress has been made, right? I mean, if you look at the 1960s, America was hyper segregated and was going through racial uprisings in dozens and dozens of cities based on, reactions to police brutality, economic discrimination, et cetera. So it's not that things haven't changed. We have a much larger Black middle and upper middle class than we did 60 years ago. A lot higher percentage of African Americans, especially African American girls, females, go to college. And there's obviously progress in other places, like a biracial man, Barack Obama, became president for 2 terms, right? And I think for a lot of people that I think perhaps aren't paying attention to the more recent history, thought, oh, Obama's been president, we're beyond race, right? And it's like, well, nothing could be further from the truth, because we haven't solved systemic racism that creates or sustains an unlevel playing field.
Once you kind of had this idea, what made you think like, I need to write a book about this? Like, I need to be the one to put this out there.
Yeah, so it wasn't an ego trip, right? I had no idea what it took to write a book. In fact, when I first started writing, I'm thinking this is going to be a long journal article. But after a month of writing, it's like, no, this is going to be a book. And I'm not sure what it's going to end up looking like, but it's going to be a book. I guess my feeling was I wrote this book primarily for a white lay audience that, probably like me, never really understood our history beyond kind of the basics that you learn in high school and maybe in college around, our founding and the Constitution and North versus South and, the Great Depression, the World Wars, but never had any understanding of beyond slavery, what did we do to the Black community over the course of time? And so I had been reading literature around this for 30 years and felt like I was fairly well versed, because I said to someone yesterday, in my research and writing over the last 4 years, I didn't know 70% of what I ended up writing about. Wow. And so it really is kind of trying to lay out for folks, well, systemic racism, it's kind of a, it's a term that's out there, but not well defined, not well understood. And people is like, oh, well, there's no more systemic racism. It's just individual racism. It's just bigots that we need to deal with. And it's not true. And so I was really trying to lay out in areas of housing, education, environment, health, criminal justice, both the longer history and the more recent history that keeps a lot of those inequities in place.
You talked about the, I want to switch topics like a little bit for a second and talk about the publishing part of this and the writing part of this. Did you self-publish or did you go through?
I did self-publish. I wrote so this is a 400+ page book. My original manuscript was almost twice as long. And the first feedback I got from main publishers was way too long. This would never get published. And it also needed to be more cohesive and kind of hang together. But, these days, far more books are self-published than published. To get into the mainstream publishing industry, you got to have a name, a reputation, connections, money. And that wasn't me, right? And so it was, how can I do the best job possible in terms of self-publishing? So I had a great company that helped me along called selfpublishing.com. And they helped me with everything from copy editing to proofing to book graphic design, book layout design, and then kind of introducing me to how do you market, how do you use social media. So, just like writing the book, figuring out how to promote it is the same kind of complex journey, and doing it the first time, you learn from trial and error. This
is a pretty big book to take on for the first time, a big subject to take on.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever think or want to be an author?
So, the interesting thing is I learned to write well as a professional. I didn't really write well in high school, didn't really write that well in college. I learned to write through having to write different things for different jobs I was in. And so from 1993 until now, I've had probably close to 24 articles of different lengths that I've written for journals, for magazines, for newspapers. 5 years ago, I wrote a report for a nonprofit called Prince George's Rising. Prince George's is the county I live in Maryland. Strategies for Equitable Development and Prosperity, which really for me was kind of the lead-in. And it was a 100+ page report, and it was kind of getting me embedded in all these issues. And it's like, I want to move from the local to the national.
Side note, I used to live in Harford County, Maryland.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yes. I have many friends in Maryland that I love. I love that area.
It's a great state.
Yeah, it is. Who would you say that the book is for? Who should be reading the book?
So, I would say anyone who has an open mind and really wants to understand in depth kind of our history, as well as understand what we can do to fundamentally change kind of where we're headed with all this. Like I said before, it's primarily aimed at a white audience because, African Americans, even if they don't know all the depth of the kind of the historical stuff, they live with racism, discrimination, microaggressions, segregation in so many ways every day. I have a lot of African American colleagues who've read the book, really like the book, follow me on my newsletter, but it really is aimed at more white people really needing to understand this so that hopefully there can be more of a groundswell to making the change that's needed.
Well, yeah. What are you hearing from people who have read the book? So,
I'm really pleased that I've got 85 reviews on Amazon, all 4 and 5 star. People from around the country who've read it. Many of them are saying, I never knew, most of what was in this book, A, and B, really appreciate that the last part of the book really focuses on, so all of this systemic racism is true and real, but what do we do? Like, we're stuck. And so, I've got proposals based on really great work being done by think tanks and pilot projects being done by cities and counties around the country around, again, housing, zoning, jobs, workforce development, reforming criminal justice systems, environmental justice. So, I hope I leave the reader with some optimism, but also with realization that this is still an uphill battle.
Yeah. Do you think it ever will be a level playing field?
Honestly, I'm 63, not in my lifetime. Hopefully in my kid's lifetime. I've got a 16-year-old sophomore in high school. I've got a 21-year-old in senior year in college up in Philadelphia. Both of who are really acutely aware of these issues as biracial kids. My ex-wife is African American. It's easier to be optimistic about the coming generation that I think gets this at a different level, been exposed to more racial diversity and other types of diversity than my generation. But they also need to realize that there's always going to be, counter and opposing forces to making some of the changes that I talk about in the book.
Do you think you're going to write another book at all?
I'm thinking
that was plenty.
Right. I'm not immediately planning on it. Right now I'm just trying to get the word out on this book. I did launch a newsletter on Substack, which is kind of a newsletter platform called Leveling the Field Finally. And I've been writing once or twice a week, pretty in-depth stuff tied to the book since July. And, I've got 45 posts so far. I'm posting one either tonight or tomorrow that is looking at housing, a range of housing solutions that are happening around the country right now. So maybe it'll be a compilation of some of my newsletter ratings. I've thought about maybe a study guide for high school and college level curricula around the book. But right now I need a mental break from the writing.
I bet. I feel like so many people that I've talked to, and Substack is one of those things that feels like it came out of nowhere and is becoming really popular. How'd you find it? And who's on Substack? I'm not on Substack, but I know a lot of authors are. Is it mostly writers or?
So it started out for writers, really. It was kind of an alternative to another platform called Medium. And there's competitors out there. I think another one's called Hive. So it was really organized for writers being able to make a living writing. I'm not making a living writing right now. That's a hard thing to do. But a lot of journalists and other more notable writers have moved on to that site or other sites. And it's based on subscriptions. And you can set in, I have some subscribers who pay. I have people who are like founding subscribers who are trying to help me along with the platform. But there's literally tens of thousands of writers on there. And then, as you might expect, as it's grown, because I think Substack may be 5 or 6 years old, they now are encouraging people to do podcasts, to do video type stuff. So it's going to be a multimedia platform ultimately, and who knows where it goes from here.
What do you love most about your life right now?
So what I would say is, during the pandemic, when I started this book, it was very isolating, right? And I was very focused on writing, revising, researching, overhauling, and kind of went into a cave for a while, right? So right now it's nice to be reconnected to friends and to family and to my professional network who are enthusiastic and supportive about what I'm trying to do here. So I would say that, and for me, always it's my kids and watching them evolve into adult human beings and supporting them in every way I can to become whoever they want to become.
Great. Steve, thank you so much for being here and taking the work to write this book and to put it out there.
Well, I appreciate you hosting me. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem. It's Never Been a Level Playing Field is the book. We're going to take a break and be right back after this. Don't go away. Life is difficult. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like you could use a little support for your mental well-being? Visit the Help Hub. It's the most comprehensive and inclusive free online destination for mental health resources, helpful tools, crisis hotlines, and supportive content. Just go to thehelphub.co to find the resources you need when you need them most. Unlike other resource pages, the Help Hub is divided into 16 different categories, ensuring that everyone in every community has access to the resources and support that matches their unique needs. Find the help you're looking for at thehelphub.co. Welcome back, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. What are you doing this weekend? Anything good? Make sure you stay hydrated and make sure you stay out of the sun, but go enjoy the weather. Tonight, it's closing weekend of Puffs from the Waxhaw Community Theater. Tonight, I am going to, I think I'm an usher tonight, a volunteer usher. So you can go to Waxhaw Community Theater. Sorry, are you going to be able to see her? There you go. Our floor director is moving positions. Apparently, under the desk was no longer comfortable. So it's closing night of Puffs from the Waxhaw Community Theater. You can go to waxhawcommunitytheater.com to get your tickets. And if you come tonight, you'll see me there. So that's what I'm doing tonight. And what else am I doing this weekend? Anything? I don't think so. I think that's kind of it. Prepping for next week's shows because we have all new shows next week. So get ready. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching the show, and I love you for it. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. And buy us a coffee, would you, at buymeacoffee.com/makeyourdayricher. So after next week, we can bring you another week of great shows, and another week, and another week, and another. Goodbye.